Yes, we're still here at the Lekki Ekpe toll gates where Nigerians are still protesting. Now, very quickly, I want to talk to Banky and Emaya Baga to just give me a pulse. How do you think the protest today is going? I'll start with you, Banky.
The protest, honestly, is taking on a life of its own. I think it's bigger than any one person. And I think that has been the most beautiful and probably the most challenging thing for leaders to say. You know, they keep trying to have this conversation about who are the leaders, who are the representatives. But the truth is there is no leader. There is no representative. The people don't want that. They just want to see action. And I think the people have made those demands clear. You know, they want to see justice and compensation for victims. They want to see actual police reform. They want the Human Rights Commission panel to be set up. You know, they just want the reforms to get started. They're even advocating for police to be paid better. So I think until the people see they want justice, sorry, and this is very important. You cannot say that reforms have started and police are still beating and assaulting and shooting at protesters. You can't say that reforms have started and not one of, where's Jimo Isiaka's killers? Where's Kolade Johnson's killer? Why can't they prosecute and charge those guys? And I think that's, until these people see that, until these young people see that, they're not going to relent. And, you know, for anybody who wants to know what to do, stop looking to sit down with the protesters. They've made their demands clear. It's now time for the government to just act, just do what they're asking and amplify that and let us see that the change that everybody so desperately wants is actually happening. And once they start to see that, then maybe we can move on to other discussions and maybe the attitude will change.
Definitely. I mean, there were reports this morning that hoodlums attacked protesters in Alausa. Now, obviously here there hasn't been any disruption in the protest so far. But how does that make you feel, knowing that protesters who were out there peacefully doing what they were doing were attacked?
Look, these are the games and the protocol of the status quo before. You know, this is every time there's a political rally or these games are always played. This time is different. Like Banky alluded to it, like we're standing and we're in awe of what's happening. Like the resolve that these kids have. If you look at what happened in Abuja yesterday, they were attacked, they defended themselves, they apprehended some suspects, they took them to the hospital. Then they raised money and fixed the cars. Like I saw a guy that was crying, his car was like vandalized. They raised money, they sorted it out, this is a new movement. Right behind us, people have organized to serve food, water is organized. So the other thing I want to say is that, and Banky touched on it also, is about action. I think that part of the slow realization that the government has to come to is to understand that what people want to see is action. Yes, you came and gave a press conference, nothing has happened, we're still out here. You know what I mean? So let's start to see action. I read a terrible story. In Awka, I think there's a protest tomorrow. I saw Fino tweet about it. I read a terrible story about some guy who's in power there, a police guy, that has done, I read this story with tears in my eyes. And until there's action, until we start to see police officers that have killed people, we're talking, these are murderers. They are murderers. Until we start to see them paraded, charges read, investigation open, I don't think these young people are going anywhere. I think they're going to be out here till they see that there's change. Do you know what I mean? And until that point, guess what? The voice will keep getting louder and louder. Yesterday I was seeing people calling for resignation of top officials and stuff. People are going to keep getting more and more angry because we don't want to just hear words. We want to see action.
You just said something now. You said no matter what happens, we're going to keep going out. Today is day 8. And the youth feel, rather, that they haven't been able to get the government to listen to them. Now, how long can the youth keep this up? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, a year?
For me, I think that it was maybe day 4. No, it might have been day 3 when I understood what's happened. Look, this protest could be over tomorrow, but the fire is never going out anymore. That's the thing that people have to pay attention to. It's not about this protest. It's about the fact that the youth have identified each other, they know who they are, and they've said, we're tired of this. You can chase us back home, we'll go home, we'll be back. And we'll be back as many times as it takes for Nigeria to become a better place.
Do you agree with him, Banky?
Absolutely, 150%. I think that this End SARS, End Police Brutality in Nigeria movement is probably the straw that broke the camel's back. But there's been a lot of things. There's been a lot of things that have got people agitated and angry and upset and frustrated. If you pay attention to the conversation online, some of those things are starting to enter. people are starting to say, how much are we paying in pension to past governors and past presidents? The country is broke, but we're still spending this amount to maintain past leaders who clearly didn't do that good of a job if we're in this position. How much is our National Assembly collecting in salaries and benefits and allowances? So these people are not stupid. They're leveraging on NSAS to start the conversation, but they're not going to stop. That energy is going to be sustained. And, you know, my advice to INEC, open voter registration now. Give them somewhere to go. Give them somewhere to go. The young people of this country are now awake. And you can't pull the blanket over their eyes anymore. You can't get it. It's not business as usual anymore. So whether, like MI said, whether the protests end tomorrow or next week or next month, the energy will be sustained. And people are going to galvanize together and get together and push collectively for the same policies and the same ideas and the same like minds to turn this country around, because at the end of the day, that's what everybody wants, is to turn this country around, is to reclaim Nigeria, is to do things the right way with the right people. It's just, we're playing Fela's songs at this protest. They sound like he wrote them last week. These are songs that were written in the 70s. So at some point, and maybe that point is now from what it looks like, young Nigerians have said enough is enough, and we'll see where it ends. But my prayer and my hope is that Nigeria will be better off for it. At the end of the day, this is uncharted territory. Nobody knows how it really started and how it will end, but we will be better for it by God's grace, and we'll see.
Okay, one last question before I let both of you go. Now, we do know that this started online and then spilled out onto the streets. Now, I want you to quickly comment about how much of an impact social media has had in the protest for NSAS. I mean, we have celebrities all over the world: Celine Dion, Kanye West, Coldplay, putting out tweets with the hashtag #EndSARS. We had Jack of Twitter say, you know what, we support you 100%. So I want you to quickly comment on that, but I'll start with MI.
Yeah, I mean, it's new world, right? New world, new rules. Thank you to the international community. Thank you to everybody around the world. The football community, the music, film, politicians, people that have given their voice, tech world. Like, the support has been massive. It's growing. And at the same time, there's also, there's protests in Thailand right now and in other parts. I think that this is something that we're seeing. It's a new type of human that is evolving that the world has never seen. They're socially conscious, politically conscious, they want change, and they're not going to stand for the same old politics as usual. And social media has really somebody I'll share a small story. Somebody got shot in the thigh. The time between, I as soon as I saw it, I reached out to him, I spoke to him, reached out to the Feminist Coalition, who have to, amazing. Reached out to them. Literally, the person I spoke to said there's going to be an ambulance there in 30 minutes. 30 minutes, the ambulance was there. They got to the hospital, sent a bill for bills. They sent 4 times the amount of money to them, just in case for whatever you need. The guy went into surgery that night, came out, he's recuperating. His friends that took him to the hospital are back on the streets, back protesting. That is the power that social media has unlocked for these young people. The fire is in the young people, but social media has become the tool by which they communicate, they mobilize, they protect each other, they look out for each other, they're organizing, fundraising. It's amazing and beautiful to see.
Yeah. The impact of social media. I mean, you are a big influencer on social media. What would you say about this?
I would say, just like M said, it has been an incredibly powerful tool. And if anybody can remember, I think it was a few months ago, earlier this year, the government actually tried to pass the social media bill. And I think that, the people that were propagating that bill were afraid of this. So they were justified in being afraid of this, because that is the power that young people have through social media. So in times past, this country has always been controlled by people that have money. But now, with the power of social media, we don't have money, but we have a message. And that message, everybody is getting behind. And that message gives us the power to unite and to push and to fight and to stand for what we want, for the policies we want, for the ideas we want. And that's what you're seeing. So Definitely shout out to the Feminist Coalition. Shout out to everybody. Enough is enough. Citizen Gavel. I mean, there's pockets of people, and I think these people have always been involved in the struggle. I mean, we've done different kinds of protests over the last 12 years. But now, with social media, it's united. You know, everybody understands that we're all on the same side, fighting for the same thing, pushing for the same thing. And social media has made that possible. So we'll use it, and we'll continue to speak up, we'll continue to stand, and by God's grace.
All right, then, yes, of course.
Just to say that, so earlier in the year, a few of us came together. Banky was one of those, Files, Chi Girl, Kate Henshaw, and I'm naming a few, but there were a lot of people from the entertainment industry that came and were part of the motion to shut down the social media bill that was about to be passed. But here's the point, we need to stay vigilant, right? That thing seemed innocuous at first. It was like, oh, we're trying to protect people against cybercrime. If you remember, I don't know if people remember this, but there were even people in government that were calling for social media bill. There were ministers that were like, oh, the best thing that will happen is...
Representatives, there were senators
that were calling for this.
Yeah.
Guess what? If we hadn't been vigilant then, this would have been a very different conversation because they would have shut down social media early on. Taking one of those bogus claims that somebody committed murder or somebody said there's insecurity to the people, shut down social media. We have to stay vigilant and we have to stay listening so that every time we call on the youth to come out and stand against something that doesn't make sense. There was another bill after that about contagious diseases that also had some hidden nooks and crannies. You know, we have to stay vigilant. People.
Thank you so much, of course. Parting words from Banky?
Parting words. My advice to anybody who wants to help, whether you are in government or you have access to them, stop looking to sit down with the protesters, sit down with the government, get them to act. Get them to, the demands of these young people are not unreasonable. They just want a fair Nigeria, a just Nigeria. They just want compensation for victims. They just want justice. Bring out those police officers that committed murder. It is so sad that while we're here protesting against police brutality, police were still out brutalizing protesters. And they were capturing peaceful protesters and arresting them and trying to pin murder on them. Meanwhile, the murder was committed by their stray bullets, by them not being trained properly and just firing into the... Listen, the advice now, get the government to act, to accept the demands of these young people. We just want to see action. Okay, that's it. Just if the action starts, real, verified, transparent action, progressive, swift action, then I think that the attitude will change. But to all the young people, whenever this protest comes to an end, it could be tomorrow, it could be next week, it could be next month, whenever, let's sustain the energy. Okay, this reform is just step one. After this, we need to push for wide-scale, sweeping reforms. We need to look at that National Assembly. We need to look at the people that we've allowed to enter office and say, okay, does this person align with where we want to go? Are these the policies that we want to stand behind? So we'll see what happens.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're actually on live TV. So thank you so much, Banky. We have spoken to him as well as M.I. Jude Abaga here as well. We are still at the Lekki Ekpe toll gate where Nigerian youths are continuing to protest against police brutality and asking for sweeping police reforms. I'm Shaitu Atigami reporting live for Arise News.